Are we?
Welcome Home Radio Podcast. Are you looking to buy or sell your home? Our team is here with answers to guide you through the buying and selling process. We encourage you to ask questions. Please comment on this show or visit us at welcomehomeradio.net for more information. Bringing real estate, lending, and education together in one place, and to help you make the right home decision for you and your family. Here are your hosts, Blair Thomas, Tom Holm, Alan Pace, and Jeff Duffy.
And welcome to Welcome Home Radio, where real estate, lending, and learning come together. It is September 27th, and we are going to be talking about FSBOs versus Realtors. For sale by owners, those people that want to not use a realtor, sell their home themselves, or do they use professional realtors? We're here today, and of course, I've got my wonderful co-host, Alan Pace, Tom Holmes, Jeff Duffy. Guys, great to have you. Hope things are doing. Boy, what a change in our weather. What a blessing. Definitely better golfing weather as far as I'm concerned. But, hey, today we're going to talk about FSBOs, for sale by owner versus realtors. And I've got to come out of the chute. Alan, what's your experience with this? Have you ever had anybody try FSBOs and then give up? Or have you ever dealt with buying a for sale by owner property? What are those experiences?
Well, it's really, it varies. But yeah, I've dealt with a lot of different situations, helped clients buy homes for sale by owners. I've picked up a property and sold it after they tried to sell it. But, you know, one thing I've never done is, you know, if I do talk to somebody and run into them, they're selling it themselves. Don't necessarily try to change their mind. I just try to introduce a few things they might not be thinking about. Some of them go on to sell their house really well, you know, by themselves. I mean, they don't need a realtor. They do it right. They get a lawyer, or they get a good title company, and or they have another realtor on the other end of it. But some of them do a really good job. Others can be a train wreck. So it's just a very wide scope out there, and I wouldn't categorize one size fits all.
Would you say this statistic is true? This is from, I'm going to say, National FHFA, selling for approximately 26% less is a FSBO over an agent-assisted home. 26% less earnings when it's sold by the owners. What are your comments on that?
That sounds too high, too much difference for me. I mean, I would say it's more like somewhere in the 5.5 to 8% difference. I would never go into the 20s.
Tom, what's your comment?
I would say typically the FSBO, for instance, my neighbor tried to sell his house, FSBO, for sale by owner, and he'd only had to try to sell it for about 3 months in my neighborhood. Most of the houses, typically when they're listed by real estate professionals, sell in 2 to 4 days in my neighborhood. So what was the problem? Tell me, what do you think might be the problem with the FSBO?
Marketing.
There's a lot of problems.
Okay, marketing might be a very good one. He was difficult as far as getting into the house. If you
don't know the value, proper value of the home.
Asking too much. Oh, right. I think that's where I would probably say. So
I win.
So we go back to that stating as far as FSBO selling below the market. My experience has always been that they got the opinion of a realtor and decided, well, we're just going to jack it up a little bit more and sell it myself. and then I can learn how to do all the stuff in the midterm as far as getting all the things finished. One of the things I warn people about in my classrooms, my students, if they're going to be listing agents, if they're going to work towards trying to help sell houses that way, one of the big things you got to always be cognizant of is, for instance, there are things like disclosures that have to be given to the people that are potential buyers, just like the realtor would have to do. For instance, a seller's disclosure, which is a major, major important thing, because that's where we end up with a lot of deceptive trade practice lawsuits. Those are treble damage lawsuits, by the way.
I think you see a lot of for sale by owners using the buyer's buyer agent, and that can be trouble for sale by owner too. But you see a lot of that going on. Investors are different. I mean, they'll go right to the owner, and Tom's done that. I'm sure you've been just talked to the owner of the property and bought a property from him, right?
Yes.
Yeah. But Tom's a little different. He knows the business pretty well inside and out. So, and he would do things right.
Hey, I have a question. Let's take a step back with Tom, with your comments a minute ago.
I know I'm standing in the front of the classroom. I got the answer right. I'm in the front. Don't ask me to step back.
You got it, boss.
Man,
all right, here's the question.
Time.
I'm trying to do some math in my head, and that's dangerous. You can see the problems that are right. So, but I want to go back to Blair. 20%, 26% different and a loss to the seller who is a FSBO compared to using an agent. And Tom, I want to go back to you said, well, and what you said makes total sense. A FSBO says, oh, I'll get an agent to give me a general idea of, what's happening in my neighborhood. I'm going to go with that number and I'm going to jack it up 15 grand. But I'm trying to still, where do they come up with those numbers on that loss? When we're trying to really big, I know you're reading off something you're looking up. I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm interested.
That means if my house is worth $400,000, I'm selling it for $300,000. I mean, it's 25% reduction.
But if the agent told you your house is worth $400,000 and Tom said, I don't need an agent, forget you, I'm going to sell it for $420,000. See, where does that 26% still come from?
Well, let me tell you, 2 years ago, that's exactly what was going on. An agent would say your house comps at $400,000, and they'd sell it for $440,000 without an agent. It depends on the market. When the market blows, it's a little different. True. And, you have an opportunity to talk to somebody and say, now it's important to have marketing, and now it's important to be, out there being marketed by every website you can possibly do it on. And as a realtor, we have access to a lot of that stuff. And so it just depends on the market too. But 26%, it just seems too much to me. I mean,
well, let's take a step back.
There's
this question.
There you go, Jeff. Woo!
I started it 2-4, one back.
So, at Realtors, we have a market that is out there promoted on the MLS. Then there's what's called off market, or sold before it's even promoted out there because of your network. What market is that? Because what I'm seeing here by the National Association of Realtors says 8% of all sales in 2021 were FSBOs. How does that rank? I mean, is that 8% of the total market of sales?
That's what they're saying.
That's what they're saying. But then you also have how much of the total market of sales never makes it to the MLS?
I don't know what that number is.
Well,
but
that's more on the investor side in that sense than in FSBO, right?
I'm just trying to get an idea to understand how the impact of this, because, what is the driving force? Are they scared of paying a commission on selling the home? Because I thought that commission was paid for by the buyer.
The seller pays that.
Seller pays.
Yeah. Generally.
That's what they're saving. In their brain, they're saving 6%.
But
or 3% at minimal.
Yeah, they can't stop. Have somebody come in and say, "Well, we're not paying your realtor."
I've heard they do. So I think here's something very interesting about FSBOs. And, again, when you're just looking things up online, you keep your fingers crossed, right? Because it might have been something promoted by Alan or whatever. Who knows? No, I'm kidding.
Well, when did you learn how to read?
So,
Jeff,
well,
that
I'm
would be
working
on the dark web,
in my
not
practice.
here.
But Blair, you said 8% in 21 were FSBOs. It jumped up in 22, what I saw, at 10%. But what I found most interesting, of 10% in 22 were FSBOs, half of those FSBOs, the seller already knew the buyer. So, boy, doesn't that make a difference? Yeah. Now you're kicking it back down to 11% almost, 10%.
It's not going to go away. I mean, you're always going to.
You're talking about 50% of 10%. That really makes a difference there, though, as far as a FSBO who's being successful at putting their house on the market and getting it sold properly. And from the title side, I'll tell you, and we do get them. We get calls off the street all the time with contracts. The majority of them, yes, they know the buyer and the seller. One might be a landlord, and the tenant's finally going, hey, I'm buying it. So, okay, that's one thing, right? There's an agreement there. There's already a relationship there. But what is a challenge is oftentimes we will get some of these contracts, but then that seller, maybe he is paying the buyer's rep, but he's not using them in an intermediary. But then they start calling my team, and they start asking these questions. And it's interesting. I think people forget so many of our jobs in industry, everything is a risk factor, right? So I'm a third party to this contract. I cannot answer those questions. I cannot give you details of how you should negotiate and handle that buyer. But we get those calls. It happens.
That's exactly why I say one size doesn't fit all. I mean, I've helped lawyers who are just smart. They've been in law for 25 years. I ain't doing real estate. You find me the home and give me the contract and we'll go look at it and I'll sign it and blah, 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 and you move on and it just works out great. Other times you get people that the internet's been a good and a bad thing. You can read whatever you want on the internet. So you can read forever. Why would you pay a realtor commission? Just sell it yourself. Go to Zillow and get a Zestimate. That's how much it's worth. They're always right. Things like that. And then you got others that just, again, all the real estate companies have their own division of, we'll buy your home. You don't have to put it on the market. We'll pay cash, in a sense, maybe competing with Tom, for an investor house or something. I've personally dealt with people that I don't want to go through it. I just don't want to go through none of it. And you get them a cash offer and you move on and they're happy with it. They don't care about getting top dollar. They don't want to fix up their house. They don't want to put $30,000 into it to make an extra $50,000. There's people like that. So it's a diverse market. The internet and Zillow especially has really made a difference in how people look at real estate. I mean, Zillow got in the housing market completely all in and kind of withdrew a little bit on the all in. But, it's just changed, it's changed over the years, I think, pretty dramatically.
Oh,
it's interesting.
There's no doubt about that.
It's interesting y'all brought up these key things because they have, and this is the National Association of Realtors, defined why FSBO sellers do what they do. The hardest task is preparing the home for sale, the paperwork, pricing the home right, selling within a desired time frame, having enough time to sell, finding buyers, and then helping buyers get financing. I mean, those tasks they don't want to touch or they don't want to do.
It's more common than you would know. I mean, and with the boomers aging and, the generation before them is almost gone.
Tom, did you hear that? You hear what he called us? We're aging. Can you believe
They're
that?
almost gone. That was the thing that I caught. They're almost gone.
I said the generation before the boomers are almost
There's
gone.
still more of them than us, Alan.
They're cheering us on, Alan.
Hey, Alan, there's still more of them than us, so you don't call them out.
Man, I tell you what.
Almost gone. Jeez, I wish I was as young as Alan.
Do you remember the days, Tom?
You'd be surprised, Mr. Home. You probably are.
Those were the days, my friend, I thought they'd never end.
Well,
We
anyway,
singing,
the
Dan?
boomers,
I
they're
would
getting old.
hazard a guess.
Husbands are dying, wives are dying.
Hey,
They don't want to go
Jeff,
through
have
it.
you ever filled out a contract? They ever come in and said, "Hey, will you fill out a contract with us?"
They do, but I all I offer is, here's my conference table. Y'all can sit there and work it out. But yes, you're exactly right. They do.
They write. I was wondering. I know back in the good old days when I first started in the business, those title companies, we just sent them over there. The title companies write the contract.
Flintstones, meet the Flintstones.
Time. That's when we were selling caves.
Yep.
Nothing like living on a gravel road these days, I say.
Contracts were on papyrus.
Hey, Alan, that's when they wrote them like this. Ching, 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 ching.
Yeah, the first thing of shorthand.
Be nice.
You know, I hazard a guess. I would bet on some of those percentages we were talking about, though. Most FSBOs go into the process and all they're thinking of is, I just want to save some money, or I need to save some money, and they don't know what they're getting into. And I bet even with the percentages we were talking about, a lot of them kind of get in the middle of it and they've gone, man, I wish I'd hired somebody to help me get through this. Because think of all the shows that, well, Blair, since you started the show, and then I've even been a part of, and everything we discuss is people just forget or don't realize how many people, how many entities, and what it all takes to this entire process. And I think that's why it is wise. It's just like buying a title policy. You don't have to buy one if you're paying cash for a house, right? But why would you think that a $3,500 investment or less is a bad idea when you're spending $675,000 on a piece of property? You know, those are the comparisons I make. When you're going into think, I am not a professional as far as doing this. So get a professional that's licensed and knows how to talk and represent you and fight for you. That's the biggest key for me.
The other thing you run into is like the pickup truck. If you own a pickup truck, everybody calls you, can I borrow it? Can you help me move a chair? Well, when you're a realtor, the for sale by owner people that you know, they go, I really know, we've been together for 15 years and I've known you forever. I really don't want to use a realtor and I live in 100 miles from you anyway. And can you tell me how to do this and how to do that? And it's the same. I mean, that happens all the time. And other than some brotherly love, I stay out of it. It's not my deal.
Here's my question, Alan, Tom.
You're not going to sell my home for me for free?
I'm full of questions. No, you're good. We're rolling. If you guys as licensed real estate agents in the state of Texas, Alan, if a FSBO asks you that and you answer their question, now he's entered a contract, you're not part of it, but if it hits the fan, would they pull you into a lawsuit?
I would never get.
How does that work? You gave them advice, even though you are not their legal representation. Can you be pulled into a lawsuit?
Never. Even if you're talking to somebody and they're not under contract, they're just talking about housing and you're a licensed realtor, the IABS comes into effect. You need to lay it on them, let them read it, sign it, date it, and then you can, have a cup of coffee and talk about the market a little bit. But no, if somebody's, oh my God, if you're a licensed realtor, listen to me now. Don't. Just stay out of it. If you're not in the contract, don't talk.
Alan moves to the front of the class.
Well, you just don't want to do that. I mean, you do learn that in school. Tom teaches that. I'll guarantee you Tom teaches that. He teaches that at the beginning of the class, and when they're graduating, he teaches that them again.
We say it like 4,327 times between all 6 classes. It's required.
Yeah.
IBS, baby.
Yeah, and that's what, if you're a new realtor out there and you're listening, utilize that piece of paper. It's simple.
It's real simple.
Yeah, and they're on your phone, or if you're old
And it
school,
gets you a conversation. That's the thing, is it gets you a conversation that they start thinking, well, this guy knows what they're doing. This gal knows what she's doing.
yeah.
And that's you've got to build cred when you get somebody and they're a cold lead like that. And that's the one way you do it, is by, hey, I know the right thing to say, or the right thing to keep you out of trouble.
Business
You
cred
kind of
or
stop
street
it.
cred?
Seriously, you kind of stop it quick. Even if you're at Kroger and you got your shirt on, it says you're a realtor. Somebody says, "Hey, are you a realtor? I just moved here from Massachusetts." And the next thing is, how's the market? Well, it's adequate, but you really don't go much further. I'm serious. And it's not, I know it's funny, but it's really not. They take this IABS thing serious, and every realtor listening should. Because to Jeff's point, it can come back to haunt you.
Yeah, no, I'm just curious. I didn't know.
Any other dumb questions, Jeff?
Oh, give me a second. Give me just a second. You've known me long enough to know that answer.
Hey,
The other thing you hear about, Jeff, concerning title, a FSBO person will say, "Oh, it's a title company. There's a ton of lawyers in there." That's what they are. They're all lawyers. And, as a realtor, you go, "Oh, yeah, they are. That's right. Yeah, they're all lawyers. They know stuff. Why don't you go call them?" No. But you hear that a lot. I mean, your office is all lawyers.
Everybody in there.
Yep.
That's not the case. People might pretend to be, but.
Yep.
The National Association of Realtors state 85% of all FSBO sellers offer no buyer incentives when it's not needed.
That's
would
because
ask
they're
how they
selling
know
at
that.
25% below market.
There you go. And I don't really know how they know that. I mean, who's going to tell the truth? If you're a seller of a house, I go, "Did you give an incentive?" "Hell no, I did it myself at full list price." They ain't going to tell the truth. Why would you?
Well, and also the buyers aren't educated to ask for that kind of stuff typically too.
Well, if the FSBO is trying to use and then the buyer's using a realtor, the realtor's going to know to ask for certain things.
Yeah, you're right.
And one of the things, I mean, you can take advantage, and I bet you most people think they can take advantage of a FSBO seller if they have a realtor or if that realtor's involved. Now, one of the things that I see as a big challenge is because the majority of people find homes online to look at, to see where they want to go look. You're not going to see a FSBO online unless you know purposely to go look at a FSBO website, and that seller knows to go register their home at the FSBO website. Otherwise, that home's not online and they can't be found. So it's really a contradiction here of using for sale by owner, but not having the presence of opportunity. Therefore, you have a limited buyer supply. Would you agree with that? Don't all answer at once.
Yes. I was waiting on the pros to answer. I'm going to say yes. That's your title guy.
Then I agree because Jeff said it.
Okay, good. You're outvoted, Alan.
Yeah, sometimes you just sit here and you look into the camera and go, "I agree with those guys."
No, talk about it.
Here's another FSBO nobody ever talks about.
Okay.
But I'll guarantee you, Tom has mentioned it in one of his classes. You go into a house with your buyer, and it's listed by another agent. There's a big sign in the front. You walk in there, and guess who's there? The seller. "Let me show you the shed I redid. Oh my God, this couch." And you go in there and you go, "Sir," and I don't, that guy's got a realtor. So all I can do is two things. If you wouldn't mind, could me and my clients have a few minutes to look at this beautiful home of yours? "Well, I want to make sure you know the upgrades I did." I said, "Sir, I have a lot of experience. I'll know the upgrades when I see them. They will too. They've bought several houses before, but I need you to give us some space so we can be amongst ourselves." And you can't make them. They don't want to leave. It's their house. They don't. I get on the phone, call the listing agent, and sometimes the phone rings and they do walk out. Other times, can't do nothing about it. It's the way this family is. They're going to be in the house. I'm sorry. Do your best. So that's another kind of for sale by owner. And they never help their cause. Ever, ever, ever. So that's a bad for sale by owner situation when it's listed by another agent and the seller's in there trying to sell it. Bad, 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 bad.
If you're going to be here, put out some hors d'oeuvres or something. I mean,
Well, they do. Oh my God.
A nice panini or
yeah, 3 cats and 4 dogs. And oh, that's Nina and that's the Pinta and there's Santa Maria. It's like, I don't want to meet your dog cat family. I want to sell your house. It happens more than you think. Trust me. It can be fun though.
Tell us about a disaster FSBO, Alan. You said in the first few minutes you've been involved with one.
I was new. I was brand new, and it was like not brand new, but it was my first one of those. And
yeah,
it was somebody I ran into, and when you're starting out, every time you get a chance to say you're a realtor, you say it. You either wear something or you have a badge, or it's going to rain tomorrow.
On your forehead.
Well, I'm a realtor. I know the weather, that kind of thing. So you start talking and then you hear things. It's like, well, I've been trying to sell my house for 3 months. Well, why haven't you? And then he starts talking. Then I have to go, well, IABS time, so back then it was not on your phone. It was a piece of paper you kept in your car, and went out and got it. And
it was better than me. Mine was on stone tablets when I started.
Clipboard.
That was the age of Aquarius. Speaking of stone.
It was.
Anyway, it was like, no, it was just a bad deal. He had gone through a complete contract. It fell through. And then when I got looking at it and ended up getting it, it was overpriced. And the guy had talked to a lawyer and got out of it, and he had lost money and with money he paid for certain things to fix issues and all sorts of stuff. And it was just not a good deal at all. I mean, anyway, we did sell it. We brought the price down about 20 grand or so, 25, 30,000, I think.
Right.
And told him to quit spending money on the house. He was putting it in all the wrong places and things like that. So, I would say it was a catastrophe. The worst situation I ever ran into was in a title company when the guy bought a truck 2 days before closing.
Oh, gosh.
And the kids, the title company was really cool. It had a little playroom for the kids, and the kids were in there, and, they're all excited, and I'm the buyer agent, and I've been preaching through email and text and verbalization. Don't buy anything. Don't go shopping, blah, blah, blah. And the lender was doing it and got in there, and title company goes, we got a problem. And I'm thinking, it's no big deal, blah, blah, blah. And then title guy calls me over and he goes, their credit's shot. I'm like, oh my God. So anyway, the mom told the dad to go sleep in his truck and walked out. It was tragic. That was the most tragic thing I'd ever been involved in. And they didn't get a house with me. I don't know when they got one, if they ever did, but they were done. They were borderline anyway, just borderline.
Wow.
And it was just, you wanted to cry, but nothing I could do. Lender said, nope.
Not going to happen.
Not going to happen. And I don't know if it ever did.
Somehow we go from FSBO and realtors to lenders.
Communication. It happens here. If everybody has Blair on top, at the corner there.
There you go.
Hey, listen,
the key.
It was a good lender, a good communication. But people do stuff, man. I'm telling you, they do. Blair knows. Everybody's been through it, and I'm sure Jeff, you've seen it in title where it kind of went astray. It's sad, but when you're talking to people, just please don't buy anything. Don't do anything. And The credit card guy, the guy we have on with the fixes the repairs the credit.
Nathan.
Nate, yeah, he's like, I've called him a couple times with, clients, not recently, but in the past. And he's got some pretty good stories.
Oh yeah.
About people. You can only bring.
Yes, he does.
That whole horse thing about you can bring them to the water, you can't make them drink it. That's not as good as the Wayne Gretzky thing you did 2 weeks ago, but that ain't bad.
Well, I've got to share. I want to share a FSBO story. This will warm Jeff's heart. I knew a person they called me and said, Tom, I got a problem. And I said, what's going on? He said, well, we wrote a contract with the for sale by owner. And of course, the for sale by owner took care of all of it. It was handwritten on a TREC form and took it over to the title company. And the title company has called us and said that we're not going to be able to buy the house. And they were like, 25 days into the process, their financing had been approved. Everything was ready. They were ready to move out of their apartment, given notice there, the whole 9 yards. And I said, well, why did the title company call you and say that? And he said, well, the title company told us there was another contract and that the other contract is going to be the one that the seller closes on. The seller had intentionally, when they took the contract to Jeff, what makes the contract invalid?
Invalid?
Yeah.
Not signed, or no earnest money deposits, or
no, you don't have to have earnest money, and you do have to sign it.
You have to sign it. What else is going to? Somebody's dead?
Maybe Alan knows everybody wants to move to the front of the class, so let's do this real quick together. Alan, what made the contract invalid?
On a situation where they had two contracts.
He already accepted one?
No, they actually accepted the higher contract for more after they had signed the contract with the guy that was being.
Well, if they've already got a signed contract, they can't do another contract.
Well,
it's a FSBO.
Well,
yeah,
I don't care.
It's still legal. They can do two contracts.
It's still a contract. Contract.
When they took it to the title company, the seller knew that if he didn't fill in the execution date,
yes, it's not valid.
It would be an invalid contract.
Technicality.
And so he did that on purpose. He didn't fill out the execution date. Somebody else came along. He kept trying to sell the house during that period of time. Somebody came along, offered him more money. And he said, okay, we'll take yours. And then he went to another title company and executed the contract.
Well, that's a lawsuit if they want to take the time.
Yeah.
But that sounds like that was done on purpose. And
you think?
Yeah. And you want to hope that we haven't gone that far down the tubes where people are, but I'm sure they are.
Absolutely, they are.
Come
on, Alan.
Come on.
I guess I have too much faith in humanity.
You're trying to be hopeful.
I'm just being me. I trust people until I don't.
Don't do that.
Okay, I have to tell you something funny. It's since we're off track just a tad, so I got to tell you now. I think it's been in the last decade or around that time they changed. And everybody knows this. They changed the laws in Texas on how you could file bankruptcy. One of the group of attorneys that I worked with earlier in my career, we had a property. The guy filed bankruptcy. And this is how our attorney got pulled into it. Alan, and this is just to prove what you're talking about, people being just shysty and downright not so nice. Filed bankruptcy. So what happens? He stopped paying his mortgage. 90 days goes by. Mortgage company starts to file foreclosure, right? So for a bankruptcy stops foreclosure. What did this guy do? Went back, filed bankruptcy again, except this time in his name, he changed his middle initial. Bankruptcy starts over, foreclosure is halted again. I'm going to tell y'all, he did this with his wife in a very nice Plano neighborhood for 3 years plus. And I kid you not, my attorney had me drive by a couple of times while this lawsuit went on. They were winning Yard of the Month club by the HOA in their neighborhood. So, Al, I'm sorry, that just popped in my head that when you're talking about, I can't believe people would do that. Yeah. So that couple made that 3.5 years, and that's part of the reason the state changed those laws on the bankruptcy.
I can happily say in all the transactions over the years, I've been involved in some really tough, hard negotiation, and sometimes it got testy, and sometimes it was in a title company when you had to close and get funded on this house before the next person could buy the next house, that kind of stuff. But I'm fortunate I have not experienced true crime, out there, like spiteful, we're not going to execute it just to try to get a better offer or put a middle initial in. But I knew that everybody wasn't honest when the day came at title when you had to sign your name, that's really your name. The hell's that about? It's like, I go by this.
For any potential homeowners who even thought about or considered that might be listening to us, I think the biggest thing, yes, we all need and look to save money when we can, but you need a professional to guide you through the process.
You do.
You need to find somebody you're comfortable with, and this is just my opinion. Find somebody you're comfortable with who's going to guide you through it and be your team lead as you go through this. It's going to make your life much easier, in my opinion. I think you pick the right person that matches you, and the money is well worth it.
So well said right there.
So many challenges out there and details. I don't understand why anybody would want to go across and do with this without a professional that's trained, knows the law, knows how the contracts, knows how to negotiate for me and represent. So again, for sale by owner, you might be saving some money, but you might be missing out on opportunities, timeliness. Ask us the questions, talk with us before you make that decision to do this. But I think there's just a positive result using a professional, and they more than pay for themselves in so many ways.
Absolutely.
Let me throw one additional thing on this thought process. I see a lot of people in my classroom who did stuff for sale by owner, and they're getting their education after the fact. And they share stories with me in the classroom that makes me go, why didn't you come to this class before you listed your house? Why, go ahead, and even if you're not getting a real estate license, wouldn't it be important to understand about the mortgage process? Wouldn't it be smart to know about the contracts? I mean, we offer classes like that, and this isn't a big sell of Champion School of Real Estate. This is get the education if you're going to do it, because you're talking about, just like Blair just mentioned, it's worth the thousands of dollars if you don't know what to do, because you're going to end up losing that money.
Most brokers you talk to that know what they're doing will say every family ought to have a realtor. Somebody in your family ought to be a realtor. And the only time that doesn't work is when you don't want your family to know how much money you got or your credit.
Don't do business with your family, Alan.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
You're just setting yourself up for failure doing
Man,
business
he
with
is
family.
so nice. He's the nicest person I've ever met. Stop it. Where's your hat? Go.
Well, again, find us at welcomehomeradio.net. Like and share these videos. Ask us those questions of concern. But again, if you're going down and you're thinking, of somebody thinking for sale by owner, please, let's get together. Let's at least chat about it so that you have some questions that can be asked or answered to help you make the best decision for you and your family. I'm Blair Thomas.
Look at this dude. Wait till you see the. No.
I'm just snorting just for fun.
We know who the snorting is.
Yeah.
And that's Tom Holm.
That's
I'm
Tom.
Alan Pace.
I'm Jeff Duffy.
God.
Welcome Home Radio production provided by Lunatic Digital. Check the listing of this podcast for the links to our sponsors. And don't forget to like, share, and follow us on social media. Visit welcomehomeradio.net for more information.
This was a Lunatic Digital production. Visit lunaticdigital.com for all your digital needs.